What is up, guys? Marcellus Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health, fitness, social well-being. This is the Q&A to thank you guys for 17,000 subs. You guys already know every time we reach a new threshold of subs that I like to do a Q&A. If you guys are not following me on Instagram at TheSwolefessor, make sure that you are, because that's usually where I announce the Q&As and allow people to ask the questions that I tend to do here on the YouTube channel. And while I'm going through all these questions, you guys are gonna be able to see training footage from the past 5 days, so a full week of training. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So first question, where did you learn all your knowledge about powerlifting? So I think the first thing to understand, guys, is that a lot of people kind of want to like just dive right into powerlifting, but the reality is a lot of stuff that just is involved with anatomy, physiology, exercise physiology, biomechanics, all of the basics of like just general strength training. You have to learn that stuff first, because powerlifting is just pretty much a more specified version of all of that, but it all still goes together hand in hand. So where I learned all of it, obviously you guys know I have my degree in kinesiology, so I went to school where I got like a nice base level of knowledge for a lot of this stuff, but the vast majority of it, guys, is learned from just doing individual research, like looking into like different studies and actually like, you know, properly learning how to read studies, which is one thing that I could say was very useful while I was in school, was that we had to actually take a course over that, how to properly read studies so that you don't misinterpret data, as well as just like trial and error, trying different things, watching other YouTubers, working under a coach myself, somebody who has experience and who has gone through different things. There's so many different avenues, guys, to learn. The main thing is to always strive to keep learning. Don't get dogmatic in your views. Don't ever think that like just your one way is the only way. It's one thing where you're being dogmatic about things that are just factually so, but when it comes to training, there's so much to it that's individual and based upon one's goals. And even with powerlifting, like where you have multiple people who have the goal of powerlifting, how you go about that from individual to individual in terms of like their volume dosages, their technique, a lot of that's based upon their morphology, their genetics, so on and so forth. So I've learned from like every tool that I can, like anything I get my hands on that I can read, whether it was like a physical textbook or online. I just really dove into the stuff like for, you know, years at a time, long before I started getting involved in YouTube or online training, coaching, or even powerlifting specifically. Next question, what method do you use to find the sweet spot for volume for your clients? Now, this is a really good question. So what I've done is just based off, you know, experimentation with different clients, and then just some general guidelines that we kind of understand as far as minimum effective volume, max recoverable volume, max additive volume, is based upon like my client structure and then a question that they fill out before we start as far as like their background, what type of programming they're doing. I kind of get their initial volume based upon that. I get an idea of kind of what they've already been doing and what's been working for them, and start there. And then through trial and error, especially with the first 3 blocks with a client, I like to call those like my base building blocks with a client, where I really kind of try to learn a client's body. Granted, you learn a client's body more and more the longer you work with them, whether it's 3 blocks, 6 blocks, 12 blocks, like a full year. But I like to use those first 3 blocks to kind of get an idea of like what all they can handle. And I do it a lot through like the secondary day and tertiary day, based upon like how much volume I can give them on those days. Kind of gives me an idea of what their recovery is like. Now, like I said, there's some general guidelines based upon the morphology. Like for example, like with my shorter clients, on their secondary day, maybe they'll have a top set and then they'll have like 3 back down sets that are based upon like their top set. Whereas for my taller, lankier clients, maybe I have them do like a top set, then just 2 back down sets, just because generally speaking, you know, if you're like taller and lankier, you have a longer range of motion, there's more total workload you're doing for each rep, so maybe you don't recover from quite doing quite as much volume like a shorter, stockier dude. So at the end of the day, it comes down to like just trial and error with the individual, but I've just come up with specific guidelines that I kind of use to start off based upon kind of like the morphology and background of the client. Next question, your life goals. I mean, as of right now, man, just to, you know, enjoy my marriage, enjoy my wife, keep putting out good content on YouTube, and keep coaching my clients to the best of my ability to help them reach their full potential. I obviously have other goals outside of that. Goals are a little bit more ambitious, but I kind of like to keep certain things to myself until like I'm at a point where they're closer to fruition. That's when I tend to like share more things with you guys. But as far as like just my goals in the fitness industry, I'm doing it, man. I'm out here working for myself full time. putting out content, traveling, you know, as I please, kind of doing as I please as far as that, you know, blessed to be in a position to do that. And I just want to keep growing in what I'm currently doing. Next question, what is the best way to stay moderately lean without having macros and nutrition take over your life? So this question is kind of funnily worded. It's worded kind of funnily to me just because when I think about like without having nutrition take over your life, like nutrition is just a part of our lives. I think we got to like kind of change our mindsets towards how we look at nutrition. But to answer your question, you don't have to track your macros at all in order to stay relatively lean. So long as you have an idea of like the total amount of calories you're taking in and you're watching the scale and you're seeing if your weight's kind of staying where it needs to be, that'll let you know if you kind of need to eat like more or less. So as far as tracking, if you're just maybe tracking your total caloric intake and at least having an idea of how much protein you're taking in, that's usually more than enough. But I will say that usually having a certain amount of experience with tracking your food for a while to where you can get good at kind of eyeballing things, even if you aren't tracking like exactly, will help you have a better idea of like your total caloric intake, even if you're not like just tracking like and weighing every single thing. And when you actually establish a nice good base amount of muscle, that's going to help you too, because like it's a lot easier to kind of stay lean if you have more muscle mass on you, because like the more muscle mass you have on you, kind of the higher body fat percentage you can get away with and still look relatively lean. So that would be my answer to that. Your thoughts on sumo versus conventional for, hold on, let me get this full thing up. Thoughts on sumo versus conventional for deadlifts. It's gonna just depend on you, man. It's gonna depend a lot on your muscular strengths, your muscular weaknesses, your leverages, and kind of like what your goals are. Like with powerlifting, obviously you want to go with whatever lift you feel is like just more comfortable and that you're built best for, that you'll be able to do for longevity, because the goal is to lift as much weight as possible. If we're talking about general strength training, I definitely think you should do both. Like I would say with building a base, so long as you're able to, like there's no reason you're not able to, maybe build your base with conventional, but I think eventually adding sumo in as a variation can be very useful as you go from being a beginner to an intermediate lifter, just to work on all, you know, muscular imbalances as far as that and getting the best benefits of both of them. Next question, any tips on minimizing fatigue while traveling? The best thing is to try to keep your schedule as consistent as possible. Obviously that's hard when you're traveling because you know you might have a certain itinerary set up, but if you can at the very least keep your eating as far as like your calories and macros as on point as possible, and like your sleep, like when you go to sleep and the total amount of hours you're getting, that's gonna just help you kind of like stay on track with like your training to the best of your ability. Outside of that, it's one of those things you just gotta accept that when you're traveling, your recovery is probably gonna take a hit unless you're able to like just plan everything out for that trip that you're taking. How to fix a lagging bench? Very, very loaded question. A very general answer though would be more frequency and more overall volume. I'll actually just have the link in the description down below. A couple of videos over just the bench press in general, different things you can do to improve it. Because it also depends like why your bench is lagging. Is it due to technique? Is it due to like, you know, something else? Like I said, like a lack of frequency, like are you really benching once a week? Maybe you should try twice a week. Are you really benching twice a week? Maybe you should try 3 times a week. Are you just doing comp specific bench only? Maybe throw in some variation work. So it kind of depends on why your bench is lagging. What is your personal favorite lift to do? That's definitely going to be pull-ups, chin-ups, like any type of, you know, pull-up or chin-up variation I'm all about, just because to me, it truly does just emphasize like what fitness really is, like in the sense of like if you are at a point where you've mastered pull-ups, like where you can do really heavy weighted pull-ups or just do bodyweight pull-ups for multiple reps, that means that you've got very good kinesthetic awareness because you've mastered technique of going through a full range of motion. You clearly have a strong back because it takes a strong back to be able to do multiple pull-ups, and you probably have a good mastery of your body composition because it's very hard to do pull-ups if you're like extremely overweight or obese. So to me, it just kind of shows all around, like it's just a movement that kind of like just emphasizes like overall good fitness. So to me, it's probably going to be the pull-up. Let's see. When and how do you prescribe heavy back down volume from a top set that's not percentage? So if you mean that's not based upon a percentage of their max, I just do it based upon a percentage of whatever the top set is. Like for example, oh, you had a top set of 3 at RP7, and now you're gonna do like, you know, 3 back down sets of 3 with like, you know, maybe like 5% less, or if it's higher reps, maybe 10% less or 12% less. So that's how I go about it. If I'm not doing their back downs based upon a percentage of their max, it's going to be based upon, you know, a percentage of their top set. And I think that's all the questions that I'm going to answer, guys. I pretty much decided I was just going to put all this workout footage on screen and answer as many questions as I could before the footage ended. Obviously, I didn't get through all the questions because there's quite a few, so I appreciate you guys for that. And don't worry, I'll be making full videos over some of these questions, especially some of the ones that are kind of more, I think, social well-being related topics. I think that'll be good. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below. Let me know what I can do better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific, and I'll catch you guys later.